A pipe sits on a rooftop at dawn. Amish farmland stretches behind it. No solar panels, no wind turbines, nothing. And then a single researcher documented it, and the $80 secret changed everything. The Amish don't connect to the grid on principle. Their Ordnung treats centralized dependency as a moral failure. But here is what most people miss. They run engineered solar tables, passive heating boxes, and gravity-fed water systems with precision. Their total home energy load often sits under 100 watts. That distinction is everything. The device's earliest documented form would later become the exact thing that defined the off-grid energy conversation entirely. But in the mid-20th century, it was just a pipe in a basement. Picture a vertical column of water sealed inside a 4-inch PVC or copper pipe, roughly 10 feet tall, wrapped in closed-cell foam insulation, and sitting quietly in a basement or root cellar. No moving parts exposed to weather, no fuel line running into it. No solar panel feeding it, just water, pressure, and physics. The assembly is straightforward enough that a person with basic plumbing knowledge and a free weekend can complete it. 2 check valves, one at the top of the water column, one at the bottom, control directional flow and prevent backflow. A small pressure tank buffers the system against fluctuation. At the inline junction, a low-friction micro-turbine sits mounted directly in the flow path. That turbine is coupled to a permanent magnet alternator. In most documented builds, a salvaged automotive alternator modified for low RPM output. A $30 charge controller connects the alternator output to a marine deep cycle battery. The battery feeds a standard 12-volt DC circuit. I mean, think about that for a second. The entire electrical generation chain, from moving water to stored charge, runs on components most people throw away. The total documented parts cost is $81.12. That figure is not an estimate or a marketing number. It is a line item accounting of actual salvage yard and hardware store purchases. 4-inch PVC pipe, cut to 10 feet, 2 brass check valves, 1 small pressure expansion tank, closed cell foam insulation wrap, 1 salvaged automotive alternator, 1 $30 PWM charge controller, and 1 marine deep cycle battery rated at 100 amp hours. Every component is available without a specialty supplier. Every component can be replaced without a service contract. No maintenance cycles, no fuel input, no weather exposure. The system runs sealed, passive, and continuous, generating usable electrical current every hour of every day, regardless of season, cloud cover, or wind speed. If that sounds bad, keep watching. The physics behind why this works is not theoretical. It is not fringe science. It is the same thermodynamic principle that moves ocean currents, circulates air through a heated room, and drives the convection cells visible in a pot of water on a stove. The Earth itself is the engine. The pipe is just the harvesting mechanism. Up to this point, the energy industry had been winning, controlling the narrative, controlling the pricing, controlling the infrastructure. That was about to flip. Think of a lava lamp. Dense, cool fluid sinks. Warm, lighter fluid rises. The cycle never stops as long as the temperature difference exists. Now imagine harnessing that cycle to spin a turbine and charge a battery. Continuously, indefinitely, for free. That is exactly what this device does. A basement or root cellar in most of North America maintains a near constant ambient temperature between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. The surrounding Earth at depth stabilizes between 45 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit, a permanent differential of 10 to 25 degrees that never closes, never equalizes, never disappears. That gap is the engine. Water inside the sealed 10-foot pipe responds to this gradient. The lower portion of the column, closer to the cooler Earth, stays denser and sinks. The upper portion, warmed by the basement ambient air, becomes lighter and rises. This creates a slow, continuous convection current moving through the sealed column, warm water cycling upward, cool water cycling downward, in a closed loop that operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, without any external input. That moving column of water passes through the inline microturbine. The turbine spins. The turbine drives the permanent magnet alternator. The alternator produces AC current. which the charge controller converts and regulates into DC charge flowing into the marine battery. The battery stores the energy. The 12-volt circuit delivers it. No sun required, no wind required, no combustion, no grid connection. The Earth's thermal gradient, a feature of planetary physics that has existed for 4.5 billion years, is the only fuel source this device will ever need. The output per unit runs between 40 and 90 watts continuous, depending on the local temperature differential, the efficiency of the salvaged alternator, and the precision of the turbine installation. At the midpoint, roughly 65 watts continuous, the device produces approximately 1.56 kilowatt-hours per day, or just over 570 kilowatt-hours per year. The U.S. Energy Information Administration reports the average American household consumes 10,500 kilowatt-hours annually. A single unit does not replace that, but it was never designed to replace a high-consumption lifestyle. It was designed to power a low-demand one, and in that context, it is more than sufficient. The thermal gradient driving this system is not seasonal. It does not depend on latitude, altitude, or weather patterns. A basement in Minnesota in February maintains the same 60 to 70 degree ambient range as a basement in Georgia in August. The Earth's subsurface temperature is one of the most stable thermal features on the planet. That stability is the point. That stability is what makes this device reliable in a way that solar and wind, by their nature intermittent, can never fully match. What comes next is the part that still doesn't make sense, at least not until you see the complete picture. Some of what we are about to show you goes deeper than a single YouTube episode can hold. The device itself is straightforward. The physics is documented. The parts list is 11 line items. But the full build, the wiring diagram, the installation sequence, the charge controller calibration, the battery bank configuration, the modifications required for a salvaged automotive alternator to run at low RPM without overheating. That level of detail requires more than narration over footage. The complete blueprint exists. It is a documented, step-by-step guide compiled from the original independent researcher's notes, cross-referenced against basic thermodynamic engineering principles, and real-world build reports from individuals who have replicated this system. The full parts list with sourcing notes, the wiring diagram showing the alternator to controller to battery circuit, the installation guide covering pipe placement, insulation wrapping, check valve orientation, and turbine alignment, and the case studies, 3 documented builds, 2 in rural Pennsylvania, 1 in rural Ohio, all running continuously for more than 18 months at the time of documentation. This is episode 1. The complete series and the full build guide are in the link below, but we cannot promise how long they stay available. Content like this has a way of disappearing quietly, without announcement, without explanation. The guide is framed as what it actually is, an initiate's manual for genuine energy independence. Not a theoretical overview, not a product pitch, a working document for people who are done waiting for permission to own their energy. If you have been watching your electric bill climb every quarter, if you have gotten a solar quote north of $20,000 and felt the quiet despair of knowing the math barely works, if you have ever sat through a grid blackout wondering why your entire life depends on infrastructure you have zero control over, this guide was built for that moment. The link is below. Use it. 40 watts does not sound like much. Most people hear that number and picture a single dim light bulb, barely enough to read by, nowhere near enough to matter. This decision seemed small at the time. It wasn't, because 40 watts continuous running 24 hours a day is not a light bulb, it is a system. At 40 watts continuous, this device produces 960 watt-hours per day, just under 1 kilowatt-hour. At 90 watts continuous, that figure climbs to 2.16 kilowatt-hours daily, or roughly 789 kilowatt-hours per year. For context, the U.S. Energy Information Administration documents that LED lighting for an average home draws between 30 and 50 watts total. A small box fan runs at 30 to 50 watts. A phone charger draws 5 to 20 watts. A portable radio pulls under 10 watts. A single unit running at its midpoint output powers all of those simultaneously, with surplus flowing directly into the marine deep cycle battery.
That battery, a 100 amp-hour marine deep cycle unit which retails for under $120 and is available at any automotive supply store, stores the surplus. During a grid blackout, that stored energy becomes the difference between darkness and function. No $10,000 whole home generator, no grid-tied inverter system requiring a $3,000 installation and a utility permit. Just a battery that charges continuously and discharges on demand. Pair this output with the Amish model of intentional low-demand living. LED lighting, no idle appliances, a wood stove for primary heat, and a single unit covers essential home loads indefinitely. Not partially, not as a supplement, indefinitely. Stacking units multiplies output linearly. 2 units running at 65 watts each deliver 130 watts continuous. 3 units approach 270 watts continuous. Enough to run a small energy-efficient refrigerator alongside full LED lighting and a device charging station. The Amish do not build one of anything.
They build systems. They build redundancy. They build for permanence, not convenience. A utility company's entire business model rests on one assumption, that you will always need them. The moment that assumption breaks, even partially, even for 20% of your consumption, the revenue model fractures. That's not a typo, by the way. 20% grid reduction across even 1% of US households, that is 1.4 million homes, represents billions of dollars in lost annual revenue to utility companies whose infrastructure costs remain fixed regardless of consumption decline. The financial threat is not theoretical, it is actuarial. The rooftop solar industry operates on a parallel dependency model. A standard residential solar installation runs between $15,000 and $25,000 before incentives. That price point is not accidental.
It reflects financing models, installer margins, equipment markups, and, critically, grid-tied net metering agreements that keep the homeowner connected to the utility even after installation. True grid independence is not the product being sold. Managed dependency with a solar aesthetic is. Regulatory bodies and energy codes are written by committees with deep, documented ties to utility industry lobbying. The National Electrical Code, the International Residential Code, and state-level utility regulations contain no certification pathway for a passive convection microgeneration device, not because the physics is unsound, because no one with a financial interest in its certification has ever sat on those committees. The $81.12 design carries no patent. It has no proprietary component. It generates zero recurring revenue for any manufacturer, installer, or service provider.
There is no business model attached to it, which means there is no corporation on Earth with a financial incentive to develop, market, certify, or distribute it. The independent researcher who documented this design was not a university laboratory, not a government energy agency, not a funded research institute. One person. Salvage parts. A basement. A documented result. But this wasn't just about one researcher anymore. The silence surrounding this device implicates an entire industry ecosystem built on the premise that energy generation must be complex, expensive, and professionally managed. Somewhere in rural Pennsylvania, in a workshop that smelled of sawdust and machine oil, a mid-20th century Amish craftsman built a convection heating box from salvaged pipe and reclaimed lumber. And this is the part where things stopped being funny, because that box worked better than anything the grid had to offer him. The Amish did not invent thermodynamics. They did not discover convection.
What they did was refuse to forget that simplicity is a form of engineering excellence, not a compromise. Their Anabaptist theology frames the use of natural resources as an act of stewardship. Use the earth's gifts. Build what you can maintain. Own what you use. Owe nothing to a system that can be taken from you. From the mid-20th century onward, Amish workshops across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana developed passive heating boxes, convection-based water systems, and mechanical off-grid devices as direct alternatives to grid connection. These designs were never patented, they were never submitted to academic journals, they were never presented at engineering conferences. They passed through communities orally, by demonstration, by apprenticeship. The same way all durable knowledge passes when the people holding it have no interest in monetizing it.
Today, Amish business owners run commercial refrigeration, full LED lighting systems, and communications equipment entirely from salvaged and self-built off-grid systems. A furniture manufacturer in Holmes County, Ohio, runs a complete workshop, saws, lighting, charging stations, from a combination of passive convection units and a small propane backup, with zero grid connection and zero utility billing. That is not a hobbyist experiment. That is a functioning commercial enterprise operating outside the energy economy entirely. The roof device, the pipe, the turbine, the battery, is one node in a larger ecosystem of Amish mechanical ingenuity that mainstream energy culture has systematically ignored, not because it does not work, but because acknowledging it would require answering an uncomfortable question about why the rest of us never built one.
The Amish didn't invent thermodynamics. They just never forgot that simplicity is the most powerful technology available to anyone willing to use it. That principle runs deeper than a single device. It runs through an entire philosophy of energy use that this series is built to document. Episode 2 of this investigation covers the $0 heating upgrade, a passive solar thermal wall modification that Amish homes have used since the 1970s to reduce heating loads by 30 to 40% without a single purchased component. Episode 3 covers the gravity-fed water system, a pressurized household water supply requiring no pump, no electricity, and no utility connection, built entirely from elevation differential and sealed pipe. The complete off-grid blueprint series is in the description link below. It is framed accurately as what it is, what they removed from the curriculum. Not conspiracy, not fantasy.
Basic thermodynamics, passive engineering, and 70 years of Amish field testing, documented, compiled, and presented in build-ready format. Episode 1 is free. The rest of the series is in the link below while it is still available. These are not concepts that powerful interests want widely distributed in actionable form. A population that understands how to generate, store, and manage its own energy at the household level is a population that becomes progressively harder to bill, harder to control, and harder to frighten with rate increases and rolling blackouts. The knowledge in this series is not new. It is old, older than the grid, older than the utility company, older than the permit system designed to make self-sufficiency illegal without paperwork. What is new is the decision to put it in one place, in plain language, with a parts list and a wiring diagram attached. The link is below. The series is waiting. The only question is whether you are ready to stop asking the grid for permission. The real question is what happened behind closed doors. Specifically, inside the basements where these devices were first assembled, away from utility inspectors, permit offices, and the entire apparatus of managed energy dependency. The build itself takes one weekend, not a long weekend. A standard Saturday to Sunday build with parts sourced from 3 locations, a salvage yard for the alternator and check valves, a plumbing supply counter for the 4-inch PVC pipe and fittings, and a single hardware store run for the charge controller, foam insulation, and marine battery. No specialty suppliers, no online orders with 2-week shipping windows, no proprietary components requiring a manufacturer relationship. The pipe is cut to 10 feet and sealed at both ends with standard PVC end caps and plumber's epoxy. The water fill is introduced through a temporary port that is sealed after pressurization. One brass check valve is installed at the base of the column to prevent reverse flow during the cool water descent phase. One check valve is installed at the top to maintain column pressure during the warm water ascent phase. The micro turbine, or the modified automotive alternator configured for inline flow mounting, sits at the midpoint junction, oriented to capture maximum rotational force from the directional current. Closed-cell foam insulation, available in pre-cut pipe wrap form at any plumbing supply counter, is wrapped around the full exterior of the housing. This is not optional. The insulation maintains the temperature differential between the water column interior and the surrounding basement air. Without it, the gradient equalizes and the convection current slows. The charge controller, a standard PWM unit available for under $30, is wired between the alternator output and the battery terminals.
Standard 12-volt DC output feeds, LED strip circuits, and USB charging ports directly from the battery. Total documented cost, $81.12 in salvage and hardware parts. Functional prototype running within 1 weekend of assembly. No licensed contractor required, no permit filed, no utility company notified. The same simplicity that built this device's success was about to destroy every argument the energy industry had ever made for why household-level generation was impossible. The $80 device is a declaration of energy independence. This device's story isn't unique. Every technology that removes a billable dependency follows the same suppression pattern. Subscribe so you catch episode 2, the $0 heating upgrade, the moment it drops.